Howdy guys, it's Joe here, and today I'm going to talk about how you guys can get to Diamond in Overwatch Season 4. Now, before we get started, I do want to say, you guys all do actually have a pretty good chance to get into Diamond. Overall, there's a lot of players that come in and come out of Diamond, so the chance that you'll eventually hit it is very high. So you should keep that in mind, and keep in mind that you can get to this rank if you do put in the time to get into it. And it doesn't take way too much time, just quite a bit of practice. With that said though, let's just get onto the four main things I want to talk about. First, the Season 4 specifics, then some general tips. After that, we got some self-improvement, and then finally, talking about practice / character knowledge that you can kind of work upon. And those are just the main things that I feel like can really help you in this season, and I'll go into those each a little bit more. With that said though, let's just get onto the Season 4 specifics, which there really aren't way too many, at least in my opinion, from what we've seen so far. So essentially I'd say Season 4 is very much like Season 3, but with a few different meta heroes, so don't really worry way too much if you haven't played that much, or if you mainly played at the beginning of Season 3 or the middle. You should still be doing okay. What's different this season though, is that we have a lot of Orisa and a lot of Bastion, or at least, you know, in the PTR we can tell this, and even in the live server we have quite a bit of Bastion, and I feel like he's going to be a character that's pretty good. I'm not sure if that he's going to be a must pick every game, but obviously we're going to see a lot of him, and he's probably going to be at a similar-ish power to a soldier. So with that, I have a few heroes that may come into a little bit more power this season, becomes Bastion and because Orisa. The first one being flankers. These characters do quite well against Bastion and Orisa. Now, while Bastion had, you know, that 35% damage reduction, they didn't do the best, but now with the 20, they can actually burst him decently fast enough. As well with that, Orisa has huge problems with people just jumping on her. She really can't do anything at all with that. Try to, you know, shoot them. That's really about it. So these characters are doing really well, and the characters are Genji / Tracer, and I'd say especially Genji does really well in these situations. Essentially what you want to do is just jump on their face, capitalize on their bad positioning, especially on the Bastion's bad positioning, because a lot of people below Diamond, when they're playing Bastion, they just think, you know, I can get this free Bastion, free win, and they position really bad. So just kind of capitalize on that. Try to flank them, try to get right behind them, just maul right through those guys. And yeah, I say flankers are actually pretty good in this season compared to previous seasons, so if you ever want to play them, right now might be the time. Next, also far range hit scan, such as Soldier, such as McCree, and also Widow somewhat, can really help a lot against Orisa and Bastion, and Pharah, which is used often to counter Orisa and Bastion. So you might want to pick up those guys as well, if you want to learn something about this meta. Finally, also, Ana / Mercy is pretty good right now if you do have a Bastion on your team. So again, if you have someone that can counter Mercy, aka flankers like Genji, well, you'll be in good luck. Other than just the character meta though, in Season 4 there's also the one big change where you can't stall quite as much on the last point. You know, if the enemy team has a lot of ticks of time on the last point, such as on Anubis, you have to wait like 15 seconds to respawn. So in that situation, instead of just, you know, trickling in slowly and hoping that you'll eventually get in there and beat the enemy team, I'd say now you might want to wait for 2 or 3 people on your team if you're on defense. Go in, try to get 2 or 3 kills, hope that you can stall, and then have the rest of your team kind of pour in. That seems to be the way to do it right now. You know, jumping in one by one doesn't work quite as well as it used to, so do keep that in mind if you are trying to pull it out in this brand new season. I do actually like the fact that you can't stall nearly as much anymore, but that's just a thing that you do want to keep in mind. But those are really the main things about Season 4. I feel like it's very similar to Season 3. Just to realize that there's a little bit less tanks and a little bit more damage coming out in this season, so you can pick up a bit more damage to counter the damage. Now to the second thing that I want to talk about, the general tips. These are very general. The first thing I'm going to say is that you might want to main a role and then play one character in another role. I feel like this is especially important, you know, when you're just getting used to the game, just getting pretty good at the game. You want to make sure that you're really good at one role. For example, me, I picked tank in Season 1, 2, and 3. I was getting really good at tank, and then I played, you know, I think, what was it? Mercy and maybe Lucio in the second role. Mainly just Lucio, though, for support once Mercy kind of fell out of the meta. So, I was just playing those simple characters. I was getting really good at them, and I had a lot of time with them. I didn't really play any offense, I didn't really play any defense, and while some people could say that could be boring, I feel like playing a lot of characters in a role can get you really used to that role, and overall, you're not going to get way too bored if you can play people like Zarya, Winston, Reinhardt. If you can play all those characters, you should be doing really well, and I feel like especially if you can main one character in that role, it's even better, but if you can't get yourself to do that, at least maining one role can be a really nice thing for you. Next, another thing I'd like to say is that you want to try to minimize your deaths when you're playing in this game, and especially when you're playing, just trying to climb up. If you feel like you're doing really good, or if you feel like you can become a person on your team that can kind of carry, you want to die the least amount possible. Of course, a lot of people die. A lot of people overposition. A lot of people just run in there when they shouldn't. And a lot of times you won't really know exactly why. And I'd say a good way to fix this is first, if you do see why you're doing it, try to fix it. But secondly, maybe try to record a VOD of yourself. Could be through Shadowplay, could be through OBS, whatever the heck you want to do. and just try to see what you're doing. Try to watch why you're doing it, and then don't do that in the future, and just try to minimize your death. As well, just don't go in by yourself all the time. I see a lot of flankers that just go in by themselves because they're like, I'm supposed to flank and attack by myself. A lot of times with flankers, you want to go around, wait for your team to start and engage, and then while the enemy team is all distracted, you go in, kill their supports. Just wait for that, wait for a bit of communication, and you should hopefully die a little bit less. And of course, yeah, look at yourself and see exactly what you can change upon. Next, I'd also say don't be afraid to pick characters that are not Soldier, Ana, and Reinhardt. I feel like a lot of people have quite a big problem with this. Those characters have been strong picks for essentially the entire last season meta and are still super strong picks. But do remember that if you get good at other characters, you can still rival them. And especially since you're at this rank, a lot of people aren't pulling those guys to their maximum potential. And there's a lot of room where you can actually carry above them. There's a lot of room where people just aren't used to fighting other characters. They're used to that Soldier, that Reinhardt, that Ana. And if you can bring out a little bit of other stuff, you can actually do really well. So I just want to say that, just want to remind you guys, you don't always have to play exactly those characters. While they are a really nice pick, and if you do like playing them, go for it. We can help you win a lot of games. You don't have to go for them if you don't like the characters. After that, I'd also say, do not be afraid if you are matched with a diamond or a master tier player while you're gold/platinum. Now, I know I personally had really big fears with this back in season 2, and I guess some of season 3, kind of. So when I started to get into that, whenever I was placing the game and I was platinum, whenever I saw a diamond, I was really, really afraid. I was afraid that they'd be carrying their team, that they'd be swamping me and having way better aim, way better positioning. And while a lot of times they are a little bit better than you, they aren't always like the god tier above you. It's not like you're fighting a top 500 player that's the best player in the world. They're just maybe a little bit better than you. And even at some times, if you are actually fighting one of these characters, or one of these players, it means that your MMR is really high. So you probably actually have a fairer chance than you think so. Even though your rank might be lower, your hidden ranking or your personal skill ranking might be pretty high. So you might have a chance to actually beat these guys. Just don't give up versus these players and don't let it get into your head, as a lot of the times they'll choke, they'll not play really well, or you might just play better than them. Just don't be afraid and just put in your all, even if you do see one of these players. And a lot of the times, if you can get into the mindset of seeing one of these players and being like, I want to beat that diamond player, that can help you win even more. Finally, as far as a general tip, I also want to say, if you can, try to duo queue. That is such an important thing to climb up. If you look at any of the top players, not many of them, but a lot of the top players, they have duo queue. 1, it's a lot funner. 2, there's really no negative to duo queuing. 3, it can give you a really nice team comp. 4, you know that you're not having at least one more troll in your team because it's duo queued. 5, you have a consistent player. 6, you can make a lot better combos. 7, that communication. There's just so much good stuff about duo queue. Yeah, just try to go for that. As well though, if you are duo queuing, make sure that you're not playing the same heroes or also playing the same role all the time, because sometimes you can get put into really bad situations with that. So yeah, just make sure that you're playing a lot of different stuff. Next to self-improvements, I'm going to say, beginning off, try to make so that if you possibly can, change your mouse sensitivity to a much lower amount. Now, maybe you already have this, but I feel like a lot of people have a sensitivity of about, 1600 DPI with maybe like 50 or 60 cents, as that's just kind of what Overwatch is naturally at. But what I'd say to you guys is that if you can, look up a guide to how to change your DPI to 800 DPI, if you can change your mouse to that, with 4 cents. So of course, if your mouse is 1600 DPI, change it to 2 cents, or of course, if it's 3200 DPI, change it to 1 cent. Just try to do that and try to get your sends really quite a bit lower. Now the huge benefit about doing this is the fact that it'll make you a lot more accurate over those small inches. You can always kind of wonder how these pro players are so accurate, like 1 or 2 half inches left and right, while you seem to just ball all over the place. It's because your mouse sensitivity is so much higher. Now, while I say this, it will be really hard for the first few weeks, even the first month. For me, it took about a month to get used to, and it can be really hard to get your shots in. I wouldn't bring this into ranked, I'd play a ton of quick play with this, but once you get used to it, you'll be a lot more accurate overall. As well with this, if you possibly can, get a larger mouse pad. If you have one of those really normal sized mouse pads, or one of the square ones, it won't cut it all the time. Personally, I use a Yu-Gi-Oh mat, but if you can get one of those Razer mouse pads, those work as well. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh mats are a little bit cheaper though, so whatever way you want to go. After you've maybe picked that up or change your mouse sensitivity, I'd say, make sure that you're starting to talk in chat. This is like one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that I feel like is even in the game. If you could talk in chat and get your teammates in chat, even talking to 1 or 2 teammates, coordinating abilities, coordinating ultimates, it can pretty much just make you automatically win the game. If you can save all 6 of your ultimates and then go for them at the same time, even if you're all less skilled players, you're gonna win for the majority of the time. That's kind of how it works down in Platinum, and for the most part, anywhere below, that's just kind of how it works. So you do want to try to pick that up. Now, one thing I feel like a lot of people say that they have the problem with people being annoyed by their voice or just telling them to shut up. if you, instead of just talking to your teammates all the time, if you just make very simple callouts such as Zen orb on this person, let's go in right now, and you don't talk way too much, I feel like a lot of people will have less of a problem. Just make very simple callouts once in a while, and that might help you out. Of course, I can't say that'll 100% fix the problem, but for myself, that can sometimes help. And after you're done talking to your teammates, also try watching VODs of people that are the best at the few characters that you want to main, slash that you want to get good at. A very good example of this is me with Mei this season. I've really been liking Mei. I've been seeing this character. I feel like she's a really cool character. I don't know. I enjoyed playing her. And I was wondering who I could get better by watching. I looked up Seagull, and Seagull is doing great with this character. I watched the guy play. I see him playing. I learned all of his strategies, or the most that I possibly can. And then mainly one good one that I saw is that he barely ever left clicks, or he barely does his freezing to actually kill people. Most of the time, he just tries to go for a few headshots with that right click with that icicle. And I was like, well, that's kind of different. Of course, most of the time people freeze you and then try to get a headshot. I'll do that. I'll follow the way he's playing. And then from there, I did that. And the very next game I was playing versus a Mei that was trying to freeze me, while instead, I was just trying to go for those icicles, and I got the kill first pretty much every single time. I almost always beat that Mei. So I feel like there's a lot that you can learn from these players watching their VODs. It can be very simple tricks like that, or it can be more advanced stuff like positioning. Overall, watching VODs of the characters you like to play is fun, interesting, and of course, mainly will help you improve if you watch what they did better, and if you try to your very best to implement that into your own gameplay. And now we're off to the practice part of this guide. Sorry it's been so long, but, let's just keep going from here. The first thing I'm going to say, if you are trying to get better at the game, is, of course, practice is so good. Practice is so necessary. You can play through the game without ever going through any practice, any warm-ups, but I feel like you'll improve a lot better and a lot faster if you do put in just a little bit of time into practice. Maybe not even way too much, just a bit. And the first thing that I'd say if you are trying to practice a bit is to try to practice specific things that you want to get good at in the practice range. Now, this could be trying to get good at long-range snipers, as Widowmaker, just trying to get the same snipes over and over and over again, making sure that you always hit them, or very close-range ones. That's a very important thing as well. As well with this, flick shots, that's a thing that is super easy to practice in the practice range, but don't get, kind of just distracted by all the other stuff you could do. Just keep practicing those flick shots over and over and over again. So with this, trying to track with a projectile character, that can be very nice. Genji combos, and anything really kind of like that. Just don't do what a lot of people do, which is just jump into the practice range, spaz around with your mobility, spaz around with different stuff that you want to try out, and then go into a game. That's really not helping you practice at all. In the practice range, you want to try one thing at a time. Do it over and over and over again until you perfect it, or just get a lot better at it, maybe for even at least 30 minutes, and then go into the next thing. At least that's how myself got a lot better at, especially flick shotting, and if you do put that into your own gameplay, it can definitely make you get better at certain stuff that you see that you aren't too good at right now, but that you could be good at if you just put in a little bit of time and a little bit of work into. On the other hand, other than just simply practicing by itself, I'd also say make sure to get yourself warmed up before you get into any ranked game. Of course, quick play, you don't really have to worry, but ranks, you want to make sure that your hands are warmed up, that your hands are ready. You can get this through OSU, you can get this through the practice range, anything else, any other game that you want to play, just make sure that your hands are warmed up, make sure that they're ready to play. That's one of the things that I feel like especially makes me do a lot better in that certain game. A lot of times you get into a game and you'll be like, why am I not hitting anything? I usually do a lot better than this. Play a few games, make sure you're warmed up, and just go on from there. Now, another thing that I feel like is also very underutilized about practicing and about gaining knowledge about the game is going into a custom game with a friend, with a character that you want to learn more about, and seeing all the different stuff that you can do with this character and all the different reactions in the game that kind of work out. For example, with myself, I decided to pick up Mei, and I want to see how the heck do you beat Bastion with this character. You can try first off flanking, and then you can try just walling off and trying to get close, freezing them up, shooting them at long range, and just trying to do whatever the heck you want to do, just learning how this character interacts with another character. Just get a quick feel to how that works, and just a quick feel to how every situation does work, and then when you're actually in game, you'll kind of know a little bit better what to actually do. Now, of course, you don't have to do this with every single character, but if you've had any questions about how you interact, how you beat a certain character, maybe try this out and just see what you can do in different situations. This is one of the things that's very, very underutilized in my own opinion, but can help you very, very much. And there you guys go. Those are at least the things that I personally feel like you can definitely help yourself improve on, learn about, just kind of some stuff about the meta, just everything about Season 4 that you can use to try to help yourself get up to that diamond tier if you put in through the work and if you put in a lot of time. And yeah, of course, the main one thing to do is just put in a lot of time, spam games through it while you're doing all this other stuff as well, and that's how you eventually get up there. I believe all you guys can do it. I've had a few friends that thought that they couldn't, but they've eventually gotten up there, so you guys can do it as well. Anyways, as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was a little bit long, but hopefully you guys learned some stuff, through and through. Of course, if you did get through it all the way, say diamond achieved in the comments, as it will boost everybody's morale and make us all do a little bit better. As well, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, support the channel, subscribe if you want to see more future content, press that bell button right next to the subscribe button to really subscribe. Thank you guys for watching though, and as always, have a wonderful day.